I got to fly with the US Navy Blue Angels, and here's how I did it. So this has got to be the #1 requested video that I have ever had. After I showed on social media that I flew with the Blue Angels, I've had a ton of questions about how to get a ride with the Blue Angels, how I did it, and then so many of you wanting to see the full flight footage, which I do have GoPro video of the entire flight. So I'm gonna share you everything I know. I am not a Blue Angels expert. I am not a consultant service for how to get rides on it because I don't know everything. So I'm gonna tell you everything I know, how I did it, and then show you some really cool clips from the cockpit. This all started in December of last year. I was invited to be a speaker at ICAS, which is the International Council of Air Shows. And I was a speaker on a couple of different topics there. And while I was there, I met someone, her name is Robbie, and she works for the City of Pensacola Beach. And one of the tasks that she does is the Pensacola Beach Air Show. And as you probably know, that is where the Blue Angels are based. So we really hit it off and kept in touch after this conference. And as the Pensacola Beach Air Show was revving up and they were making plans for that, and of course the Blue Angels flying in that show, she told me that she'd really love for me to apply to be a media writer with the Blue Angels. She also told me that she's never had someone apply through her that wasn't traditional media, that was, you know, someone like me who has my own media online in the form of social media. Typically, it's a news reporter from a local news station that goes on this media writer flight. So she said, don't get your hopes up, but how about we put an application in, do your best to explain why you're a good fit for this, and let's see where it goes. So she nominated me to apply, which I did, and during the process of this, I actually became traditional media. Something that I haven't really shared yet, but am going to share is that I'm now a writer for Twin and Turbine magazine, which is an aviation magazine focused on twins and turbines. Pretty easy by the name. So we updated my application and shared why I would be a good fit for the media writer role. So let's back up real quick to the Blue Angels. I'm sure you guys are familiar with who the Blue Angels are, but maybe you're not sure why they even exist. They fly air shows all over the country to help inspire people and the next generation to be at their top tier of excellence, whatever that may be for you, and to, of course, help with military recruitment. So as part of the Blue Angels air shows, of course, they perform in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and they do meet and greets and events and things like that. They also give rides. Now, if you are an aviator like me, I'm sure it's a lifelong dream to fly with the Blue Angels. It is the highest honor in our industry, and it's such a small selection pool to even be able to apply and then to get picked. The chances are just quite small. So that's why this means so much to me, and I want to help answer some of your questions and just share how this went for me. The rides are always done in the Blue Angels #7 jet. And just so you know, the #7 jet isn't always the same exact jet. They can just move the numbers around, but you will always be placed in whatever aircraft that day is displaying the #7. And you're gonna be flying with a pilot that is their air show announcer and their media pilot. So this pilot is not flying during the air shows. They're not part of like the main team that you see in formation flying. Their sole job is to be the announcer. So they're gonna be at show center Whether it's down at the Pensacola beach or at a different venue, they're gonna be center stage, usually where the air boss is or the flight announcer, and they're gonna be there telling you what you're seeing in the sky because they know it obviously from a very intimate space of being around the Blue Angels all the time and being on the team. But also they give all the media rides. So typically the media rides are done the day before an air show for the Blues. And when they take people for rides, they actually select 2 people to go. The first is called a key influencer and the second is called the media rider. So the key influencer is not social media influencer typically. It could be, but it's not. Usually a key influencer is someone who in their community is doing really awesome things. Maybe they're a teacher that is going above and beyond for their kids, or maybe they're a police officer or a firefighter, or someone who's just going above and beyond in their community and has a story to tell and to inspire other people. This key influencer is nominated to apply. So someone has to nominate them. It's under my impression that it's someone from the Navy or the Marines that has to nominate this person, but that's the part that's a little gray for me. I'm not sure how nominations are made or who is required to do that. I just know that the nomination exists. So once that person is nominated, they have to put in an application, explain why they're a good fit to be this key influencer, and then the Blue Angels will review all that and select someone. Now the second person is what I was, which is a media writer. Kind of same process, nominated to apply. You have a formal application, an essay about why you're a good fit for this. And the role of the media writer is to report on the key influencer ride. So that's why it's typically a news reporter or something, because they're gonna be out there on the ramp, they're gonna get footage of the key influencer, they're gonna get interviews with the key influencer, and they're gonna make news about it. Because we wanna spread awareness about the Blue Angels and about this person, about inspiration and excellence and all these goals that they have about the key influencer ride. And then the media rider, I'll say kind of gets a ride almost from my perspective as kind of a thank you for doing this and you're a part of this and now you get to experience it as well. But the media writer traditionally doesn't report on their own ride. They're just reporting about the key influencer ride. So that's where it got a little bit different with me. How I pitched it was not only am I going to report on the key influencer, I'm also going to report on my own ride. So it's like double coverage. I have the experience of media to know how to get the story out about the key influencer, but I also have my own platforms with my own viewership where I can share my own experience. So it's kind of a double whammy. So they have these 2 riders. They pick 2 riders per air show. I think that they normally do about 13 air shows a year. So that means 26 people a year get chosen to fly with the Blue Angels. So back to my story, I applied, didn't think it would go anywhere. And then literally about maybe 5 weeks before the Pensacola Beach Air Show, I got the news from Robbie that I got selected to fly with the Blue Angels. I could not believe it. I called my husband who was at work to tell him that I got selected. I was crying so much on the phone, I couldn't get the words out. He's like, why are you crying? So just a really emotional time as an aviator and someone who's been working in this industry for almost a decade now. To have that type of reward just means everything to me. And then after you get selected, you're still not done. Then I had to go to an AME or any doctor really, and there was a form that my doctor had to fill out saying that I was fit to fly in the F-18 Super Hornet. Once that form is filled out, that gets sent to the Blue Angels flight surgeon where they review it and make sure that you're a good candidate to go on this flight. Preparing for the flight, there are a couple people that were in charge of handling me and the key influencer to give us all the information before we fly, how to prepare for it, what to eat before, how to hydrate before, what to expect that day. And then we also got to invite any family or friends that we wanted to bring onto the naval base with us to watch us fly. But the actual flight takes place over the Gulf of Mexico, way out over the ocean and one of the protected airspaces, so they don't actually get to see you fly. So then it was my turn to get suited up and get out to the airplane. There is no other feeling on this earth like climbing into the back of an F-18. It is every aviator's dream to be able to do that. So a bit emotional while you get strapped in. The crew gets you all strapped, gives you one last briefing on everything in the cockpit that you're seeing, everything that is strapped to you, which is a parachute system, not a G-suit. And they do their little secret handshake send off. They all have their different one, which is really cool. It makes you feel part of the team to be able to do the little send off. And then before you know it, the pilot's coming over, which my pilot was Buddy. Buddy was freaking awesome. One last, are you good to go? And then before you know it, the canopy is shutting, and then it gets real. Also part of your briefing is G's, how to combat them, how to stay awake, how to hopefully not puke, and get through this flight successfully. So what's interesting is that F-18 pilots in the Navy do wear G-suits, but the Blue Angels do not. If you got to watch the documentary that's on Amazon Prime, or it was in IMAX theaters for a while, you would have seen that almost all of their pilots who are used to wearing G-suits flying the F-18 get selected on the Blues, and then all of a sudden they're passing out during training on the ground. They have a training unit to get their G tolerance up. Because it's hard to fly without a G-suit, and they don't because G-suits inflate, and part of that inflation is around their thighs. That's a key component of a G-suit to make sure that the blood doesn't rush from your head down to your feet. And when they're flying with a center stick and their arm is on their thigh, if that were to inflate, when they're flying 18 inches, sometimes less from each other in a very precise maneuver, that's just not gonna work. So not only do they not wear G-suits, their passengers do not either. So part of this briefing is they're gonna teach you how to combat the G's, which basically you're going to flex all your muscles as hard as you can from your abs the whole way down to your feet. So your abs, your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings, your thighs, your calves, everything you flex as hard as you can. And they said to imagine a volleyball between your knees that you are squeezing so hard that you're shaking. That's how hard you are doing that. And that's gonna help prevent that blood from rushing to your feet. Along with that, you have a breathing technique because it is very hard to breathe when you're under a high G load, and you have to keep the oxygen moving in order to stay awake. So it's a really funny breathing technique. So you're letting out and then breathing back in really quickly. So it sounds funny, it looks funny, but that's kind of what works for G's, and it's just something that you have to practice for sure. So we got started up. There was the whole maintenance crew for that aircraft just standing outside the number 7, and they wait while Buddy goes through all of his pre-taxi checks and make sure everything's good as we start to taxi out, and then they send us off. So then we were taxiing out to the runway, and then you get right into your first maneuver. Of course they're gonna do a fancy takeoff, right? So when we take off, first you get that push back in your seat initially from all that power, but then you get a second push back in your seat when the afterburners kick in, which that's just the coolest part. You can't help but smile. And then they get off the deck, they accelerate to 350 knots before going into a straight vertical climb to 10,000 feet.
All right, you ready to go, Mindy?
I'm so ready.
Well, let's do it. There's military power. And there's afterburners. 80 knots. 130.
And the guard helicopter, what's your position?
Clean. All right, there's 250. Right at 350, we're going to go up. So I'll give you that cadence here shortly. Hit your head nice and comfortable. Here we go. Ready. Hit it.
Fly present heading, just for the visual approach.
Nice work. Let's go departure, Blue Angel 7, passing 4,000 for 10,000.
G-LOC 3, connect out.
They claim that no one ever passes out during that maneuver, even though you're about to hit over 5 Gs right off the bat, and they don't know why. It's magic. Maybe it's the adrenaline or something, they don't know, and you're not really prepared for it. I mean, you are, but you aren't. You haven't practiced G loads yet, so that's a lot of G's to be hit under in the first couple seconds of your flight. One thing you're gonna notice throughout this whole video is the ready, hit it.
Ready, hit it.
And that is the classic phrase to let you know that G's are coming. So that ready means you better be flexing and get ready to breathe. And then once hit it, that's when the maneuver is going to start. They're really good about telling you, of course, when the maneuvers are going to start with that phrase, but also when they're over, because some maneuvers you're hitting a lot of high G's and then there's a rest period in between and then G's again. So they make sure to tell you when you can fully relax.
All done.
After we took off, we went out off the Gulf Coast of Florida and we went out into, I think it was a restricted airspace.
Angel 7 radar contact. Are you doing area A4 or are you going south?
Yes, sir. We're doing Alpha 4 at 2908.
Angel 7, turn right heading 250, climb and maintain 2000.
Angel 7, 240, 2000.
So we went out there, had permission through ATC to go out there and do all the maneuvers that we wanted to do. And while on the way, I thought this was super interesting that they let me bring my cell phone and said that you could take photos or videos whenever you wanted to. So of course I had to get some F-18 selfies, but that was just on the way to this restricted airspace. And then after I got my couple photos and videos on my phone, I zipped mine up in my flight suit and didn't take it out again. I just wanted to enjoy the flight and I definitely didn't want my phone to be flying around the canopy. So I just took it out for those few seconds and then put it away for the rest of the flight. So basically on these flights, they're showing you everything they do in the air show. Now this is not formation, you're out there as a solo, just one jet by itself, but you get to see and feel and experience all the maneuvers that you see them do on the air show. So number 7 for me was Buddy. This changes every single year. Is not only a pilot, but he's also the air show announcer. So number 7 is going to be the only pilot on the team that's typically the only pilot on the team that's there for 3 years. All the other pilots are there for 2, but the number 7 comes on the team as the air show announcer. So for example, in Pensacola, down at the beach where show center is, you're gonna see him announcing and telling you what you're seeing in the sky of the rest of the Blue Angel pilots demonstration. And then they also give all these media flights. So they're gonna know all the maneuvers really, really well. And then for year 2 and 3 of their term, they go and they fly on the main Blue Angel team, slot 1 through 6, and then someone else becomes the number 7. So of course, when we're in the cockpit, I am touching every single little thing that they said I could, just because I am changing the displays, I'm looking at the altimeter, I'm looking at the G meter, I am pressing every button they said I'm allowed to, including the little toggle switch for the seat. There's a little toggle that puts the seat up and down to get it perfectly where you want your head below the canopy, that way it's not too close. And also not too far where you're sitting really low, because when else can you touch buttons in an F-18? There was air conditioning, which we were prepped to expect to not have AC. And of course you're in a flight suit, long sleeves, a helmet, everything. It's really, really hot, but there was air conditioning, just these small little vents that you can open up your flight suit and let some fresh air in. So it's still really hot. Of course you're in a canopy, which is always really hot, but luckily there was a little bit of airflow. So they start the flight with helping out your G tolerance by starting out with small G's and then building up.
Once we get established in our airspace, which is just about 30 miles off the nose.
Gulf 1, just pull your jumpers. I got a guard helicopter.
We're going to start with some really easy warm-up turns, 2 Gs, 3 Gs, 4 Gs. That was 5.1, just for, do you have the HUD up on your right hand display?
Yep, I do.
Cool, so in that left column, you can see peak G at the bottom.
Yes.
5.1, and then current G at 1.0 right now.
Got it.
And we're going to roll out. We're going to do 3 Gs to the left. For this one, get the legs engaged.
Okay.
And we'll practice the cadence. Ready, hit it. Nice, there's 3.2. And we'll hold this for a moment. Rolling out. All right, the last turn is going to be a 5G turn. So for this one, this is how we warm up our body. It's not going to last as long as the other two.
Okay.
But we got a natural response that our body does. We just got to trigger it by pulling a little more G. So 5Gs to the right. Keep the head nice and stable.
Okay.
Tighten the legs. Ready, hit it. Nice work. Tighten the legs. Squeeze the volleyball. Roll it out.
Ooh.
Nice work. So that one might have felt a little lousy.
Yeah, I got fuzzy.
Yeah, now that we've felt it, that natural response our body has is blood pressure. Your blood vessels open up to allow more blood flow and tighten your legs. I don't know how it works. I'm not a doctor, but that's what we've been relying on in tactical aviation for a while. It's called the cardiovascular reflex. And you have it now for about the next 15 minutes. So the next time we pull G's, it should feel quite a bit more comfortable. You still need to really work, but you'll have a higher tolerance for the next 15, 20 minutes or so.
Cool. I like that. Even
It's a
if
very
it's
cool
a
thing.
placebo, I like it.
Yeah, you are protected. It's like the G-suit without a G-suit.
The first maneuver we did, which again you would see in the air show, is called the Delta formation roll, which is kind of like a barrel roll, but it's when all 6 jets do it together.
All right, for our first maneuver, we're gonna dial this back a little bit, do the Delta roll. Are you familiar with our demo, the maneuvers?
I've seen you guys a bunch of times, but I don't know all the names to the maneuvers.
Okay, cool. So the Delta roll, this is when all 6 jets are together about halfway through the show. And it's basically a barrel roll. It's a little bit different, but we'll do that together here in a moment once we're facing east. I'll start this at 2,500 feet. This is a 1.8 G maneuver, maybe a little more at the backside, but nothing over 2.5.
Okay.
Here we go, no need to strain.
It's crazy how much you can feel the power changes.
Oh yeah.
So much power. It's like
Alright,
an instant speed change.
It is, it's quick. That's just with no afterburners on that one.
I really like that they kept the smoke system on for all of our maneuvers. That's really neat because then, especially in this footage, I can see exactly what that maneuver was and get to see like your breadcrumbs. I'm really happy that they left that on. Then the next maneuver we went into was a loop. The Delta roll was pretty easy, and then we went into a loop, which the loop is a bit tougher. You're under more of a G load, and then you get to relax a little bit on the top and then push really, really hard again as you come out on the bottom.
All right, next up, we're gonna slowly work up the level of difficulty here. We got a loop, so for this one it's 3.5 to 4 Gs at the beginning. As we get slow over the top, the Gs will ease off, and then as we scoop out the backside, we'll have another 3.5 to 4 G pull.
Okay.
Get the smoke on. All right, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Get the legs engaged. Ready, hit it. There's 3.5. That's the most we'll feel. Here comes that east. And if you look back, you can see our smoke trail.
Yeah.
Got a little wind out of the west. And here comes another pull.
This was the first time I started to feel just a little bit gray, and I'll explain a little bit more about that kind of gray out later.
Nice work, maneuver complete.
Woo. That was fun.
And then the next maneuver we did was some inverted flight, which inverted flight is just fun. You feel like a monkey.
All right, we'll take a step back from G'd up maneuvers. We're gonna do inverted flight next. So for this one, negative G. There's not really much you can do, like I'm sure you know. You don't want to strain your legs because that'll just make more blood go to your head, which is not what we want. So when we roll upside down, just go nice and loose, kind of like you're on the monkey bars back in the day.
I'll just hang out.
It'll be the same feeling.
Yeah.
Here it comes, rolling inverted to the left.
There's all the dirt in the plane.
Oh yeah, they're a little old. That's negative 1G right there for you, negative 1.1. We got special fuel pumps in the plane that let us do this for longer than a normal F-18.
How long?
About 70 seconds. It depends on your throttle setting. Rolling out to the right.
Let's go.
Yeah, in a normal F-18, there's not much reason to be upside down like that, so they don't have the fuel pumps for it, but for our demonstration, we got some special hardware installed on the Blue Jets.
Then we went into the minimum radius turn, which if you've seen the air show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's when they do a turn in the tightest amount of space available, which means you're pulling a ton of G's for a lot of time. So this is gonna be a high G load maneuver, but also you're holding it for like 20 seconds, which is an insane amount of time. And this is when I really got this gray out. Now, I'm glad they briefed me on gray out because that is prior to G-LOC. That's before you're just full lights out. You get a symptom, which that first symptom is gray. So it goes from, you know, you get to see everything vibrant, clear colors, and it starts to move into tunnel vision. And it literally grays out your field of vision. And I'm glad that they told me though that you can save it, which I did not know this, that as you start to gray out, if you fight through it and you push your muscles that much harder and you're doing your breathing technique, that you can reverse it, which I would have thought that once the gray starts happening, just give up and it's lights out, but that's not true. And that happened to me on this minimum radius turn where I got the gray out and then I was like, no, push through this. And I did, and then everything came back vibrant again. It's almost instantaneous too, once you fix the problem.
All right, for our next maneuver, we're gonna go back to the higher G realms. This is called the minimum radius turn. It's what our 5 pilot will do about halfway through the demo. It's a left 360-degree level turn. We'll start at about 7.5 Gs. We'll ease off to 5.
What?
And then at the very end, that's gonna last about 20 to 25 seconds. At the very end, we're gonna point straight up into the air, just like we did on takeoff. And then I'm gonna tell you, here comes the push, relax. So you've been fighting around the corner, you know, during that turn, during the pull, the vertical. When you hear me say that, go nice and loose, because we're gonna feel about negative 1.5 to 2 G as we push the nose down.
All right, I will try to hang in here.
All righty. We'll start at 350 knots at around 2,000 feet. All right, you ready to go? It's gonna be a turn to the left.
As I'll ever be.
All righty, get the legs engaged, squeeze the volleyball. Ready, hit it. Nice work. That's about 5 G's right there. Keep fighting, keep squeezing. One more big pull, keep the legs engaged. Nice job. Here comes the push, relax.
Yeah!
Nice work.
Oh, wake!
Here comes the push.
Okay.
All done, maneuver complete.
I got to see that whole thing.
Very cool.
Woo. It really closed in on me, but I like that you said you can save it. Cause
Oh, you can definitely fight it back.
I fought so hard and it came back.
Good. That was 6 G's that we felt right there at the beginning, and then we held about 5.5 all around the corner.
Wow.
So really nice work.
Then we did something that didn't require G's, which was the high alpha pass, which is basically slow flight. And what I thought was really interesting about this is that the F-18, the Super Hornet, automatically deploys flaps as you get below flap speed. And again, on the other side, when you want to clean up, it brings the flaps back out whenever you add power and airspeed, which is pretty neat. That way the pilot workload is less and the pilot can just focus on power, flying the airplane, and gear, and the flaps are automatic down and up.
This is called, when the solos do it, the section high alpha pass. There's only one of us, though, the high alpha pass. Do you use angle of attack?
Yeah.
Or alpha? Cool. So we're, this jet is rated a 34 alpha. That's when we perform the best as far as lift goes. I'm going to show you what 25 looks like, because that's what we do in the demo. And we get down pretty slow, especially if we're going into the wind. We got the speed brakes out. You can see them over your right and left shoulder, those pancake flaps that come up. Our spoilers, and then all the control surfaces will dig in We'll put those away as we get a little slower, and then this flaps auto schedule, so they'll dig in both the trailing edge and leading edge flaps as we slow down.
That's cool.
It does help. It's one less thing to think about.
Yeah. Does it clean up too?
It sure does.
Cool.
There's 165 over the ground. Right about 11 alpha.
What's your normal landing speed?
We fly angle of attack to land, so we do 8.1.
Okay.
Angle of attack, which is around, I mean, it depends on your fuel weight, anywhere between 130 and 145 knots.
So about this speed.
Yeah, a little bit slower, sorry, a little bit faster than this. Yeah, closer to 135, but we're pretty heavy right now, so as you get lighter, you don't have to maintain this angle of attack for straight level flight. And we'll power out.
Sweet. Just instant power.
That helps too, yeah.
Another really cool thing about this maneuver is this is the time in the flight that I really got to feel and experience just the true power of the Super Hornet. When we cleaned up out of this maneuver, we were going 100 and something knots. And when he added power, we instantaneously gained over 160 knots of airspeed. And if you fly GA planes like I do, you add in full power and you're gonna see the airspeed ticker go. And in small jets, you see it go kind of fast. In this jet, it is instant, like seconds. You push power, boom, 160 knots added. Like, incredible amount of power. Then we did rolls at 380 knots. Just like crazy to me, the speeds at which we're doing these maneuvers at.
All right, I'm going to show you some aileron rolls. We can, in this jet, we compare it, we're going to, at least for this demonstration, we'll do 3 to the left and then 1 to the right. After we've done really 2 to the left, you're going to understand why we go right back to the right. Your brain gets a little bit scrambled.
Okay.
Kind of like unwinding the clock. But we'll accelerate to about 380 knots. And then for this one, no need to engage the legs. Just keep your core nice and tight so you don't get jostled around as we start and stop the rolling.
Okay.
All right, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Here we go. 2 rolls to the left. Keep nice and loose legs. Tight core. Ready, get it. There's 1. And there's 2. Little pull. We're going to do 1 to the right immediately. Ready, get it. Nice job. Give it easy left.
Then we got into a maneuver that I was actually really nervous about. I was doing really well, so I'm not sure if they always do this maneuver with people. I think it depends on how well you've done up to this point. And I was doing really well. And of course he knows I'm a pilot, so let's rock. And he asked if I want to do it. Of course I'm going to say yes. So this maneuver, I wasn't so sure that I was able to do it. I was already gassed from this flight, exhausted. It is the hardest workout that you've ever been through, and it's really, really hot outside, all the things compounded. And so when he asked if I wanted to, of course you can't say no. You're sitting in the back of a Super Hornet, but I already kind of had a feeling that I was gassed.
All right, next up is our highest speed maneuver for the day. It's called the sync to vertical rolls. We'll clock in about 7.5 Gs. But the maneuver starts. We'll be at about 500 feet over the water, and then we're going to accelerate to 0.95, the speed of sound, which is the speed limit out here. And then we're going to pull straight up. So it's just like the takeoff maneuver, but since we're going so much faster, about twice as fast, there's going to be more G and G for longer.
Oh, okay.
So stick with me, keep fighting until I say maneuver complete. Because I don't want you to let go of the strain early. Okay. Because it does continue for a while. Does that sound like something you're interested in?
Yeah.
All right.
And if you follow on Instagram, then you're one of the over 1 million people that have seen this clip. And just by that intro, I think you're gonna know how this went.
Get down to about 500 feet. You can see we're at 0.723. And once we get to the 0.9 range, we'll start the maneuver. There's 600 over the ground. Mindy, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, ready, hit it.
I just passed out for a little.
That's all good.
Sorry.
We'll keep it nice and level. Oh no.
Woo! I went to dreamland. I am back with you.
Alrighty. Yeah, take it nice and slow. Is your neck feel okay?
Woo! Yeah, I
Alright.
do feel okay, but
Roger that. Yeah, you get a big adrenaline spike also, so just work through that.
sorry about
We'll enjoy this. Absolutely not. That was 7.3 Gs and we held it for quite a while.
Oh my god.
So you're doing great. You were not out for long at all. In fact, I wouldn't have even known it.
Really? Oh my gosh, it felt like an eternity for me once I realized what was happening.
Oh no, you are all good. Cool, so something that might help you feel a little bit better, you know, look outside at the horizon, but then those air vents that are right outside your knees,
Yes.
just go ahead and blow that on the inside of your wrist.
I feel okay. I feel totally fine now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, couldn't fight through that one. I need more practice.
Yeah, that one, especially without a G-suit, that one is definitely something to respect. That does not get easier the more you do it.
So let me tell you about G-LOC. I laugh looking at this video now, but in this moment it was kind of scary. So with G-LOC, you have no concept of your time at all. I thought I was out in under G-LOC for several minutes, but it was only 2 or 3 seconds. And to the point where I apologized to him, thinking that I was sleeping for several minutes, and he replied to me, I wouldn't have even known if you didn't tell me. That's how quick it was. In fact, we're still in the maneuver. So that's how quick it happens and just no concept of time. Whenever I came to, my head was down because of the G-forces and I passed out, my head pushed down. And I could see my hand like on my thigh like this. And I remember looking at it and I was kind of shaking and I could not move my hand. And I didn't know that I was still under G's from the maneuver. So I thought, my first thought was that I was in a crash and that, you know, my body wasn't working. So it was a really scary like moment, brief moment, until I kind of realized what was going on. And then I got the energy back to literally pull my own head up because we're still under G-forces, and then tell him that I'm back, to which he was like, didn't know you were gone. And I had this whole conversation in my head while I was looking at my hand, thinking that something bad really happened and couldn't understand why I couldn't work my body. And all that happened in milliseconds, which felt like several minutes to me, which is crazy. Once you come back to, of course, they ask, you know, are you done? Do I need to take you back home? Of course, I said no. I want to stay out here as long as we're allowed to. And you just kind of feel like trash after. Like, I didn't feel nauseous, but you just don't feel well. But I still wanted to do more. He asked me what I wanted to do, which I thought it was probably the best idea to do something a little less G, so we just did a couple more rolls before we headed back in.
What's your favorite maneuver?
Oh, you know, there's something really cool about that, the sneak to vertical rolls. Just because that's one of those ones you have to respect.
Yeah.
No matter when you do it. But I mean, just like the freedom you can get, you know, the feeling on those maneuvers is pretty cool. From what I've heard, I haven't been into the flight demonstration yet because it's my first year, but there's a little less sense of freedom when you're doing it with your 5 closest friends right next to you. But they sure do make it look easy.
Yeah.
Because they do it all the time.
It's pretty crazy to think about another couple of these about 18 inches away.
Oh yeah.
So had a nice little break from the airspace, headed back to the naval station.
Sea Breeze, Blue Angel 7 is complete. Looking at RQB to Navy Sherman.
Blue Angel 7, Sea Breeze, right in.
Blue Angel 7 with the flash, currently descending through 5,500.
And then you go back into one more really high G load maneuver, which is the overhead brake.
All right, we're gonna head on back. We got one maneuver left called the carrier brake. So it's a more dynamic maneuver. It's how we slow down at the aircraft carrier. You fly at it pretty much as fast as you can because you want to be efficient. But then you got to be slower than 275 to throw the gear down. So we slow down using D. And we can do anywhere between 4 and 7.5 Gs for this maneuver. You get to pick whatever you'd like. That's coming up in about 3 minutes here. So you just let me know what you're looking for.
Maybe somewhere in the middle.
All right, let's do that. That sounds awesome.
This last maneuver is where a lot of people do get pass out because you're tired. It's the end of the flight. You kind of have your guard down, and then you hit these really high Gs one more time, and it's it's a pretty difficult one at the very end, I'll say.
Blue Angel 7, field sight, sir.
Blue Angel 7, closers approach the break, runway 7 left.
Clear visual approach, runway 7 left, Blue Angel 7. Blue Angel 7, left break. All right, ready to go?
I'm ready.
Ready, hit it. Nice work, all done.
Woo! It's a good way to end it.
Absolutely. Sherwood Tower, Blue Angel 7 to beam gear, full stop.
Blue Angel 7, runway 7 left, wind calm, clear land.
Clear land, runway 7 left, Blue Angel 7.
Cat 84 at the numbers, break right.
Got T6 off to the right.
I see.
Pretty cool angle.
Yeah.
Right now we're on speed, so 8.1 angle of attack, right around 133. Guess that answers that question. That's with 7,000 pounds of fuel on board.
Cool.
Then taxiing back in, got to ask Bunny a couple more questions, and these people are just awesome. They are top of their game, not only as a pilot, but professionally, personally. The crew and people that run the Blue Angels team are selected, obviously, for a reason.
What's the smallest runway that you can go into, like, comfortably?
Blue Angel 7, taxi across 7 right, contact on.
Taxi across 7 right for ground, Blue Angel 7. Technically, the shortest one we're allowed to land on is 6,000 feet. You can land on a 5,000 foot runway in an emergency, but
Okay.
you gotta be really light, and you just gotta know that the end's coming up pretty quick. Yeah, 5,000 is definitely
Tight, yeah.
yeah, we did a show in Vidalia, Georgia, and that has about a 6,000 foot runway, and it worked out fine. That's just something to be aware of, especially when you got 6 planes landing, you know, a quick succession.
Yeah.
And we all stop at the end of the runway, so that chews up a little extra distance.
Thank you. That was the ride of a lifetime. I cannot believe it. It's one of the greatest things I've ever gotten to do.
Glad to hear. Could have had a prettier day for it.
No kidding.
That is for sure.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. And when people have fun, it's always more fun for me, too. So this one was pretty fun.
Can't imagine not having fun sitting in the back of an F-18.
Your body gets a vote, you know?
I mean, I will say I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, much longer of that would be tough. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, if you haven't flown for a while, or you're doing like 2 or 3 flights and you're not used to it, it comes right back. The fatigue. But once you do it every day, it's no big deal. You'd be fine.
How long is the Blues air show set?
The jets fly, if it's a good weather day and they can do all their maneuvers, it's about 45 to 48 minutes.
Okay.
But the whole thing is dynamic. There's not really breaks for the pilots built into the show.
So this was just an incredible experience. And then as we taxi back on and the canopy comes back up and all your people are there waiting for you to get out and ask how your flight was.
You're going to feel some pressure in your ears, and then once the canopy comes up, we'll lose comps. But it's been a pleasure, Mindy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Cody will be right up in a second to get you down.
Okay.
I'll see you outside.
Which of course my husband's first question was, did you pass out or vomit? And Bunny was so nice, he was the one that got out first and said, it's not my story to tell. But of course I was gonna tell everyone. So I obviously shared that I did pass out. I didn't want to. I've tried really hard not to, but you could see during that maneuver just how exhausted I was. I wasn't doing the right breathing technique. I probably didn't have enough stamina left in all my muscles to do what I really needed to do. So that's where things kind of went south. But I'm really happy for this whole experience. Cannot believe I got to go and think that I'm probably gonna watch this video every day for the rest of my life.